Hello, hello. Thanks for joining me again. This one's going to be a quick one today. I've come down with a migraine or something. I don't know what's going on, but I've been bedridden all day. It started last night. I just had this terrible headache. I was so sick and I couldn't get out of bed. Every time I stood up, I just felt like I was going to either pass out or throw up uncontrollably. So yeah, that wasn't very fun. But it just goes to show that you need a business that can run without you, because today I did absolutely no work, not even any computer work. In fact, the only time I've gotten on my computer is to do our Q&A call inside Booked Out Cleaners and to do this podcast right now. So yeah, I didn't do anything today. The business still ran independent of me and made $7,500. So that's not too bad considering I spent the entire day in bed. But yeah, thinking back to like when I started my business and I was just by myself, I used to just pray. I'd be like, please, God, please, I do not let me get sick. I used to just pray every day, please do not let me get sick. And the slightest tingle in my throat, if I had a little sniffle in my nose, if I felt any ounce of sickness coming on, I would start just pummeling the vitamin C. I would do anything in my power. I'd be drinking ginger tea, just trying to fight off any oncoming sickness. Because as you know, if you're a solo cleaner, everything rides on you. And if you're sick and you can't work, then your income just goes to zero and you run the risk of losing clients, especially if you take an extended leave of absence. And then there's other cases where, maybe you've got a kid that's coming on the way and you're unsure about that. So when that comes, you might need to take a month or two off, and that could really jeopardize operations. So yeah, really just puts it into perspective. We do need to get ourselves out of the business. That should be the goal. That should be what we're working towards, is removing ourselves from the business, but not removing ourselves from a literal sense. Obviously, we're going to be working on it from a bird's eye view from up above, but you can't be doing the cleaning. I think I talked about this in the last episode, going from technician to entrepreneur. Yeah, very important. So today I'm pretty sick, and for that reason, it's not going to be a super long episode. I've got a couple of notes written down that I'll kind of talk about. But in this episode, I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about first impressions in a sales sense. I want to talk about taking control of sales, and also just overall confidence and comparison to other people and other businesses, and hopefully give you a bit of reassurance and some confidence that I can instill into you there as well. So let's start with first impressions. You know what they say? Actually, what do they say? What's the quote that everyone says? First impressions matter? Is that the quote? I feel like there's more to it. Anyway, first impressions are everything. Maybe that's it. It's very true. It's very, very true for like relationships, for meeting people, but it's even more true in a sales environment. So I was talking to Emily inside Booked Out Cleaners today, one of our lovely new members. She's just launched her business. Very exciting. She's just started, so she's in the infancy stages of the business, and she's got a lot to learn. But she did a couple quotes, and this one quote that she did really shook her. It was one of those things where she went in, she set her price, and the customer snapped back and was like, this is too much. This is unbelievable. If you're charging this much per hour, you'd be making $120,000 a year, blah, blah, blah. And it all just comes down to first impressions. And when I say first impressions, I don't just mean the moment you meet someone. It also has to do with everything that leads up to the quote. So the email correspondence, the text messaging, the look of your Facebook business page that they stumble onto for the first time. All of these different first impressions, these different first encounters with you in the business are all independently their own first impression. So the first time someone lands on your Facebook business page, that's their first impression with the business page. The first time they land on your website, same thing. The first time they meet you in person, that is a separate first impression. So all of these things matter. And what I was saying to her was, I experienced the exact same thing when I started my business. For the first maybe 5 quotes I did, I had a lot of pushback on my price. People did the same thing. They kind of went like, whoa, that's way too much. My current cleaner charges me $25 or $30 an hour. And I would just get anxious. I would be put on the back foot and I would just retreat, And it wasn't until I started to legitimize the business and really shift the perspective from I am just a guy who cleans to I am the owner of a premium cleaning business. So things like having an email signature in your email that has your logo, has your contact information on it, even has like a photo of you, having a business phone that's separate from your personal phone, having a website that's set up and flushed out and looks really professional. All of these things create the ideal first impression that your clients are going to have of you. And that first impression is going to be more in the direction of, oh, this is a real legitimate business. And that leads me into the next thing, taking control. When someone's first impression of you is that you're a legitimate business, they're not going to feel entitled to take control of the conversation. So in Emily's case, she rocked up to this house. She did the walkthrough. The woman told her what she wanted. And right off the bat, she was telling Emily that she expected an hourly rate. She said, I know how cleaners operate. I expect an hourly rate. I don't want this price by the job BS. She said, I want this, and that done. So completely ignoring the standard service offering that Emily has, and just immediately taking control of anything and everything. And that left Emily on the back foot, as it would for any of us. And you can't really do much in that situation. There's not much leeway you have to be able to steer the conversation in a way that's beneficial for you. It's really just the customer making demands and expecting you to just, kind of bend over for them. And it happened to me a lot in the beginning. It's probably happened to a lot of you listening. If you have a cleaning business in the start, you probably experienced this when you were doing your first quotes and you were finding your footing. You probably noticed that it felt like you didn't have control in the sales conversations. And it's because the first impression of you is that you're just someone who cleans, and you didn't have the power position in that sales conversation. You did not have control. And so the way to take control is, first of all, have that good first impression. Because remember, people form an opinion within 7 seconds of meeting you. Okay, so your body language, your tone, and your presence are going to speak louder than the actual words that you're saying. And, clients, they don't just buy cleaning. They buy trust and they buy reliability. So in order to make a really good first impression, you have to dress professionally. You have to have, confident posture when you walk into the room. You have to greet them with energy. You have to mirror their energy. So, if they're formal, match their tone. If they're casual, you kind of need to ease into it and, adjust the cadence of the way you're speaking. And you really need to own the space. Like, you need to walk in there like you belong. And then if we're going to backtrack, not just the actual first impression when you meet the client, but the first impression when they see your website, all of that needs to be flushed out as well. If you don't have all of that sorted out, by the time you get to the quote and you meet the customer for the first time, they already have a preconceived notion of you not being a legitimate business, and they don't respect you. They just kind of walk all over you, and they expect you to bow down to them, and whatever they say goes, right? They say, this is what I want done. This is what I'm willing to pay. And they expect you to either say yes or say no and walk out the door. That's not how it's supposed to go. So first impressions matter. It's what allows you to set yourself up so that you can take control of the conversation, and then you can start to actually have a conversation. You can have a two-way dialogue, and it's not just one-sided. So a good example of this was I went and did an office cleaning quote the other day. This was a really big bridal company. They did like wholesale wedding dresses. So super big business. And what's interesting was I actually met with the CEO. So it was the CEO himself who reached out to me and asked if I could come do a quote. So, and this is a huge headquarters. It's to do a weekly clean of their headquarters. And, there's like 12 different offices, massive floor plan. And so really, really big office. Just, I don't know how many square meters or square foot it is, but really, really massive office. As soon as I walked in, the first thing I thought was like, this is probably going to take 4 or 5 hours a week. And so I'm already doing the mental maths in my head. I'm like, this is going to be like, $400 to $500 or whatever. And so I did the walkthrough with the CEO. And then he really wanted me on. So he was saying like, if you can match the price of our current cleaners, like I'll take you, no questions asked. And I'm like, fair enough. He's the CEO. He just cares about the money, which is fair enough. Like he's just looking at the numbers, which is very common for CEOs and a lot of entrepreneurs. They're very analytical and numbers based. So anyway, he got his assistant to print out the invoice that the current cleaners send them. So she hands me the invoice, and I opened it up, and it said $80 per week. These cleaners are charging $80 a week to clean a gigantic office space. Like, legitimate, it's like the size of a Woolworths. Like, it's insane. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my 5 years of business. $80 to clean a company headquarters the size of a small Woolworths. Okay, a small supermarket. It is insane. And so I asked him, I'm like, what the hell are these people doing for $80? He said, it's 2 people, they come for an hour. So, okay, 2 hours, $80, that's $40 an hour. So what are they doing in 2 hours? And he's like, oh, well, they're pretty much just vacuuming and emptying bins. And I said, well, when you took me on a walkthrough, you showed me the kitchen, the toilets, etc. as well. So, but you also said that you wanted me to be able to match the current cleaner's price. And he said, well, yeah. So there's already a bit of contradiction there. And so I dug a little bit deeper and I said, okay, obviously your staff aren't happy with the current state of things because he was mentioning that the bathrooms and kitchen are always dirty, and no wonder because the current cleaners are charging $80 a service. So I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not going to be able to match this quote. And I explained to him, I'm like, just to send an employee out here, in travel costs, it's going to be half of that. And then by the time they clean and finish the job, I would have lost so much money that $80 is literally impossible for me to work with. And so I just explained to him, and I made the invisible visible. So I told him about all the expenses that I have that go into my business. Even though he's a business owner, I don't expect him to know the costs, the hidden costs and expenses associated with my business. So I told him all about insurance. I told him about travel. I told him about the cleaning kit. I told him about, the hourly rate, the super, the workers' comp and everything. And so I said, with that being said, obviously you're not happy with the current cleaners and you do want more done. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a quote. It's going to be, 3 to 4 times more than your existing one, which I know you weren't really happy with. And he even said to me, like, he doesn't really care about the cleaning. He just wants a good price. But to that, I said, like, your staff aren't happy with the current cleaning. And so they would benefit as well by having a better service in. But anyway, I said, it's going to cost you 3 to 4 times more, but I can guarantee that things are actually going to be done properly. You won't have to worry about these dodgy contractors coming in and breaking something and not having insurance, because they had no idea if these people had insurance or not. And I'm like, you're running a $20 million company here, but you're only paying $80 a week to clean your entire headquarters. And I said to him, does that seem reasonable? And he said no. And, keep in mind, I am speaking this way directly to the CEO of a company. So I immediately, as soon as I walked in there, I took charge. I spoke with confidence. I acted like I knew what I was doing. And I know the me from 5 years ago when I started my business, I would have just rolled over and matched the price because I was desperate for business. But the me today is so much different. I took control from the minute I walked in. So I educated him on the costs associated with me running my business. I educated him on why the trust and reliability and quality of our business is going to be an inherent benefit and a much better outcome for him. I kind of put it to him. I was like, you're running a $20 million company. Do you think it's reasonable for you to be paying $80 a week to clean your entire headquarters? I'm like, it seems like a bit of a misalignment. It seems like a bit of a disparity. Don't you agree? And he said, yeah. So, very, very cocky, very, very confident, but it worked. I matched his energy. I saw how he was speaking to me. I matched his tone. I matched his demeanor, and I just had a level conversation with him because I kind of, after doing this for, 5 years now, you do get that vibe. And I say that to people. I said that to Emily from Book That Cleaners when she had this story about that quote that went really south. I told her, you just need to keep doing it. Don't let this phase you. I know it's going to be discouraging and it can really get you down, and you might want to be second guessing your pricing and think that you have to just cut it right back, but you just can't let it get you down. This is one of the biggest trials that the business will throw at you. This is one of the biggest hurdles that you're going to be faced with, is that one customer that makes you question your entire business. And I want to make it clear that one customer, one person, does not define who you are or what your business is. Okay? So if you can push through that and just keep at it, 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to get better and better at sales because you continue to do it, and repetition is key here. So you just keep doing it, and as a byproduct of that, you keep getting better at it. And then number two, you're going to develop thicker skin. So when someone raises an objection with you, or someone has some sort of pushback to something you say or a price you give them, it's not going to send you into fight or flight mode. You're going to be able to stay calm and composed, and you're going to be able to further the conversation and steer it in a new direction, which is going to give you a beneficial outcome. So that's what I did in this quote. Instead of retreating, when I saw that invoice of $80 a week for a clean that should be at least $300 a week, I didn't just retreat. I took control. I showed my dominance there. I educated him on the hidden costs in my business, so I made the invisible visible to him, even though he's a business owner, and you'd think that they would just know this stuff. So I educated him on my business and the costs associated with me running my service. I also explained the benefits to him, because he's a CEO of a company. He doesn't know as much about cleaning as I do, obviously. So I need to put it in layman's terms for him, and I did. So I educated him. I broke down the value proposition for him, and I also talked to a couple of his staff that were there and just asked them about the cleaning, obviously with him by my side as well. So I surveyed the room. They were all unhappy with it. And long story short, walked out of there with a pretty much guaranteed customer. And it's all because the first impression was strong, and I took control when it mattered. And I want you to remember as well that the client is looking to you for guidance and reassurance. If you let them control the conversation, it becomes about price instead of value, which is exactly what happened in this scenario with me and the CEO of this company. If I let him take control, it was just going to be all about price. He started it off by saying that he just wanted me to match the current cleaners, which I was happy to do given that it was a reasonable price. It was not. So then I had to take control and reposition the conversation to be about value. So going back to the booked out cleaners with Emily, her quote, the client was taking control there, and the client made it all about price instead of value. And there's even a lot of subtle things you can do with your languaging that you use during these quotes to position yourself as an expert. For example, when you talk to a customer during a quote, you can say, you can use a phrase like, from my experience with similar properties, here's what works best, or here's what I recommend. So you're setting yourself up as the expert or the authority by saying that, I have worked in properties similar to this, therefore I know XYZ. You can say most of my clients in this area go with this option because, and again, that establishes authority. You're saying that you already have a proven track record in this field or in this area, and it steers the conversation in a better direction for you. And look, there's going to be awkward times. There's going to be times where the first impression isn't great, and a lot of the time you feel like you can't come back from it, but it's not the end of the world. When I flew over to Melbourne last week, I was watching Love Actually on the plane, and I thought it was just going to be a nice rom-com. I love a good rom-com. I'm a sucker for those. So I turned it on. I was 20 minutes into the movie. Everything was great. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a nude scene appears on my iPad screen. And mind you, my iPad is on full brightness, okay? And I'm sitting next to an elderly couple, the sweetest elderly couple ever. And as soon as this nude scene comes on my iPad, I see the elderly lady out of the corner of my eye sitting to the left of me. She puts her hand up, almost covering her field of view of my iPad so she can't see it. And I just immediately started pressing the brightness down button to get rid of it. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. And then another 20 minutes into the movie, it cuts to another nude scene. And same thing. I can see her out of the corner of my eye looking disgusted with me. What is this guy watching? This is putrid. And again, I was just mashing my brightness button to turn the brightness down so nobody could see it. But then I was too far into the movie to just stop watching it because I was already invested. But anyway, that was a first impression that didn't go so well for me. So this poor old lady next to me on the plane for 3.5 hours probably thought I was this creep. And, in her mind, she's like, I don't want to be sitting next to this guy. He's weird. He's watching probably porn on his iPad. And in my mind, I'm freaking out because I'm oh my gosh, what have I done? This lady probably thinks, So there's going to be awkward moments, especially in sales. There's going to be times where you walk away from a conversation with regret, with embarrassment, but the only thing you can do is learn from it. So in future, I'm probably going to Google if a movie has a nude scene in it before I watch it on a plane full of people. And, if you walk out of a sales conversation with a few takeaways, even if you didn't win the sale, if you at least build some knowledge from it, gain some experience, and learn something, then that in itself is a win. And you can carry that forward to the next one where you can be even stronger than before. So here's a few tips for building confidence as well, because confidence is such a big thing, and you can't really have great first impressions and take full control of sales conversations in those sort of environments without having confidence as well. So here's a few tips that you can use to build your confidence. Number one, like I always say, know your numbers. Be ready to justify your price with confidence. Back it up with the value proposition. Have that value stack. Talk about the invisible in your business. Make it visible to the prospect. Talk about your expenses. Talk about the fact that you use eco-friendly products, or that you use eucalyptus extract in your sprays so it leaves a nice scent and is non-toxic and is good for animals and their babies, and all the stuff that goes into your business, okay? And know your numbers. Number two, you want to practice handling objections. So, what if they say you're too expensive? Or what if they say, my old cleaner charged me $30 an hour. Why on earth would I pay you $65 an hour? Then you can start to build a Rolodex of answers. So next time a customer says that your prices are too high and they're like, oh, you're charging me $150, but you're only here for 2 hours. That's $75 an hour. Then you say, well, are you happy with the clean? Is everything being done to standard? And they're like, well, yeah. So then you say, well, would you prefer we do the exact same thing, but just take twice as long? And then they're like, oh, well, no. You know what I mean? So you start to build up a Rolodex of answers to common questions and objections, and this is just called objection handling. You also want to make sure you remind yourself of past wins. It's really easy to dwell on the bad. It's really easy to think about the negative and stew on things again and again, but you should keep a confidence file, of good reviews, positive feedback, quotes you've won, feats that you've achieved, milestones you've reached, all that sort of stuff. That just helps reinforce the good and the positive stuff so that you don't dwell on the negative and just downward spiral. Okay. Next, you need to practice reframing rejection. It's not about you, it's about fit. Not everyone is your client. So if someone doesn't go with your quote and they say you're too expensive, it's not you that's the problem. It's not you being too expensive. It's that customer is not the right fit for your business. Okay? Just reframe that rejection. And lastly, last little tip for building your confidence is to just keep learning and adapting. The more you do in-person quotes, the better you're going to get. Like I said before, with Emily, she just needs to keep at it. She just needs to keep doing it so that she, one, gets better at it inevitably. Repetition is key. You do anything for long enough, you will get better at it. And number two, to build a thicker skin, because in sales, you need thick skin. Otherwise, you're just going to go into fight or flight every time you get an objection, and you're never going to make any real money because you just keep getting put on the back foot by, customers, and you let them take control of everything. And then, like I said, everything becomes about price and not value. And it's just a vicious cycle. So we need to flip that and create a virtuous one. But yeah, we're all human. It's easy to, compare our failures to other people and be like, why does this guy or this girl seem so much better at this than me? How come it seems like everyone else is succeeding and I'm not? Comparison really is the thief of joy. I was stuck in that cycle when I started my business. I think I might just do a whole episode on that sort of mindset and that sort of mentality, because I think there is a lot to unpack there. But just remember that the key here is you just need to stick at it. I did, my first 3 months I made $0. And then in the 3 months after that, I made decent money. And then the 6 months after that, so by the 12th month of being in business, I made a lot of money. But most people give up in that first 3 months. They stick at it for like a month, even if they're not making any money, and they're like, it's a new business. I just got to stick at it. I just got to keep doing my thing. But then they give up after like the second or third month because they're like, this just isn't working. I need to pivot. I need to try something else. I need to go back to my old job. Business is a game that rewards you based on your willingness to endure. Your willingness to endure defeat, to endure setback, to endure a lengthy timeline to get to where you want to be. So you need to really be patient. I mean, like I said, it took me a year to make decent money. I'm talking like 50K, but now 5 years in, I am now making millions. So business really is a game that rewards people that just stick around. That's really all it is. You just have to stay here. You just don't jump ship. Don't try to do a different business. Don't try to reinvent the wheel after 3 months if nothing's working. Keep doing the same thing, but just innovate it. And so before I go on another tangent, just keep that in mind. If you're in the early stages of business and you're wondering, have I made the right choice? Is this for me? This is a business. There's no participation trophy. There's no one that's going to pick you up when you're down. It's all on you. And you just have to kind of come to terms with that. And you have to realize that there is no one else out there that's going to save you. It's only you. And you have to back yourself and you have to believe in yourself. And that means sticking at it. That means staying true to the business, even in the first couple of months where you're not making money. Or if you do experience setbacks later on, fighting through it, not just giving up. Because I've seen too many people come and go, and all the successful people I know simply just stuck around. I don't know anyone who's been in business who's been in this business particularly for 5 or more years and isn't somewhat successful, So, that's all I wanted to share with you today. I apologize if I rambled a bit or didn't make sense. I am quite sick today and I got like 2 hours of sleep last night. But again, that's why I'm blessed to have a business that is systematized and can run without me, because even while I was in bed all day, scrolling through TikTok and trying to ignore the fact that my head was feeling like it was going to blow up at any second, I was still making really, really good money. I had a great team of people that were running operations while I was out, and it was happy days. So, that should be the goal. Get yourself out of the business, because anything can happen, and it's very scary the moment you get sick. If you don't have anyone to fall back on or anyone who can step in for you, it's no bueno, not good. So if you want to learn systems and processes and principles that you can use to systematize your business and get yourself out of it and employ staff and have a real asset that makes you money without relying on your time and your hard work and labor, then I recommend joining us over in Booked Out Cleaners. The school community is flourishing. I'm dropping new modules every month. I'm doing the Q&A calls every week. Everyone in there is experiencing success. I'm so happy to have such a great community of people who are driven and just committed to the cause, because I have not spoken to someone in there who is not achieving success in their business. So if you want to come and be our next success story of many more to come, then head over to bookedoutcleaners.com.au and read the thing. If it aligns with you and you think you want to take the plunge, then join us. You won't regret it. I guarantee it. There is so much great content in there, and there's only going to be more and more to come. So if you want to grow your business, or if you haven't started yet and you want to start a cleaning business, I highly recommend you join my school community, Booked Out Cleaners. It is great. It's a great community. As I said, lots of people achieving success, and I think I've talked about it enough. So I won't keep trying to shove it down your throat. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. And remember, even if you're not a quote confident person, even if you feel like an imposter when you try to act confident and try to be salesy, just remember that you can manufacture confidence. You can operationalize confidence. So if you look at the ideal version of yourself, if you clone yourself and look at yourself from a third person perspective, what does that person look like? What are the traits associated with this perfect version of you, this perfect business owner version of you? They walk in with their shoulders upright. They walk in with a smile on their face. They greet people with a firm handshake. They take control. Even if you're not a confident person, quote unquote, you can operationalize confidence. You can do the things associated with that. You can assume the traits and the characteristics and all the things of a confident person, and you can just do that. You can manufacture that confidence. So even if you weren't born with that gift of the gab or whatever, even if you're not that person, you can become that person. And business is all about growth. So the person you are before you started your business is not who you're going to eventually become. So business is all about evolution. It's all about change. It's all about growth. And so don't just sit there and shake your fist at the world and complain about everything. Do something about it. It's not easy being a business owner. It is simple, but it's not easy. So stick at it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you found value. If you did, would greatly appreciate if you could rate this podcast 5 stars on whatever podcast platform you listen to, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and maybe even share it with a friend, a fellow colleague in the cleaning business industry that could also benefit from this too. But yeah, a 5-star review would be greatly appreciated. It helps more people find the podcast and it makes me happy. So if you want to make me happy, do that. But anyway, I'm going to try and get some sleep because I am wrecked today. And I'll catch you again next week. Bye for now.